And then I even saw something today where it was like an edit where they was like comparing Nico and Lewis to like George and Kimi and the trajectory of how like their careers have gone. And again, eerily similar. History repeats itself in the sport more than we probably realize. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Circuit, Apollo Media's Formula One podcast. As always, I'm your boy Junior, joined by Mark and Ivan. As you can tell, we're in a little bit of a different setup this week, filming remotely from our live stream homes. But nevertheless, we're here. We are ready to talk about the Japanese Grand Prix, all the fixings and everything that happened around it. It was an interesting race weekend. Some headlines that came out. Unfortunately, most of the headlines were negative. But we'll get into all that and everything that kind of happened throughout the weekend, during the race, during quali. Boys, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I mean,
Just okay.
I have opinions about the regs, but I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't at this point?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a unified thing across F1 fans that they are not good. But yeah, I mean, Charles got his podium for me. But I'm just thinking about this long break we're gonna have, and man, it's a long
Yeah.
break.
Yeah, it's a long break. Ivan?
You would think with the 5-week break, we would feel like we have a vacation, but no, it just makes me want the racing to get here faster. So
Yeah.
and that, and obviously, I know we'll get into the regs talk. Definitely going to need to talk about some changes, but got to talk about what happened on track first before we get to that mess.
Yeah. So we'll start with qualifying. I guess the big headline that came out of quali was Behrman exactly didn't have a strong qualifying. He was out in Q3, and then Max, his struggles continue. He ended up getting knocked out in Q2 by Arvid Lindblad, the V-Carb rookie, and he even got out qualified by Isaac Hadjar, his teammate. He was running a different setup. I know they said he was running some upgrades that they brought to Japan, so he was running a different setup. Safe to say, in qualifying, that setup did not pay off. Very rarely in the last few years have we seen Max get out qualified by his teammate. And with the struggles that Red Bull has had this season, the start of the season, he's already been out qualified twice. I want to say it is by Isaac. And 3 races, he's been out qualified twice already. And over the last 2 years, that was the amount of times both Checo and Liam Lawson were able to out qualify him. And Yuki, sorry. I don't think they counted Liam, but it was Yuki and Checo both combined were able to out qualify Max twice. Isaac's done it twice in 3 races. A little bit of a different situation, different reg set, different car, different struggles, but nevertheless, the numbers are still there. As a Max fan, it sucks, but also it's, hey, everybody has said we wanted to see that out of that second seat, right? We wanted to see when Max struggles, the other Red Bull should be there, not all the way in the back of the pack like it had been. We're finally getting it. So it's a bittersweet feeling. Didn't really translate in the race regardless, but that was kind of the big thing that came out of qualifying. Any thoughts on that? I mean, like I said, it's weird and it's hard to judge, but the numbers are what the numbers are if you want to get cut and dry about it,
I mean, yeah, this was the expectation, especially for Isaac after having such a great rookie year.
Yeah.
I definitely thought he was gonna have his moments where he all qualified Max, but obviously with the regs and everything, like we'll get into that later. But that has to do something with it. But what happened. I mean, Isaac's done pretty good for this season, and I imagine he'll get better results throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
Red Bull just needs they have an aero problem right now. I mean, the engine, from what it sounds like, is pretty good, especially for a team making their first engine ever.
Yeah, no, that's
so. Which the people at Honda right now have to be extra teed off the problems they're having in the.
For sure. Dang,
all those guys we decided not to keep or didn't pay enough. Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
that would have worked out a lot differently for us. But
Yeah.
no, Red Bull has a big aero problem. Ironically, Junior, what you said was 100% correct. That this is the reason why they brought in a driver like Hadjar. It wasn't
Mhm.
to take the throne. It wasn't to do anything. But hey, when we don't have our lead driver on this game, we just need someone to like, just take up a couple points, get us points. We don't
Yeah.
need someone
Get it,
finishing.
pick up the slack. I mean, essentially, it's what it is.
Exactly.
Pick up the slack. Not that Max usually leaves a whole lot of slack out there, but hey, shit happens, and especially with the struggles, like I said, at the beginning of this season that we've seen across from Red Bull.
Yeah.
These new regs are not Max's friend at all. I mean, he's been pretty vocal about it, and we've seen it on the track. Like
I don't
you
think
said,
they're anybody's fan.
well, that's true too. Like you said, whatever aero problem Red Bull has right now, hopefully they figure it out. And I think I said it like a week or two ago, in one of our episodes. When Red Bull finally figures it out and gets them even halfway caught up to where they can be to fight with probably Ferrari and McLaren now, Max is going to do what he does. But for now, he's back there duking it out with Pierre Gasly at the top of the midfield, you know?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I mean, I think outside of that, Kimi taking another pole in qualifying, I think the kid's here, man. The kid's here.
I mean, Piastri got me having PTSD from last year, but I just like seeing the growth so far.
Yeah.
But the end of the season is the only thing that matters in this sport. Max proved that last year too, even though he didn't even win the championship. He showed, if you have a good enough form at the end, anything is possible. Because I did not see that coming last year at all. So
I mean, even as a Max fan, I took it with a grain of salt up until the very end, and I hoped going into that last race he could have pulled it off. But like you said, at the end of the day, it comes down to the last race where you fall in the points. It's going to be interesting. I know this season there's going to be some changes, especially with these long breaks. But for now, I mean, it's worth noting, you know, Kimi's taking poles. Pierre Gasly in an Alpine is out qualifying Max. I think, what is it, 4-0 now if you count the sprint. Ferrari's right there at the top three most of the time with the Mercedes. It's interesting. It's been an interesting first 3 rounds, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's been a long first 3 rounds.
It has, right? It almost feels like we've been around. It feels like we've like made like half the season, and we're only in the first 3 rounds. Like maybe these
come and all of a sudden we're here.
Yeah, maybe these next 2 rounds getting canceled isn't such a bad thing. So we'll get into the race though. Obviously, headline: Kimi wins back-to-back. He becomes the youngest championship leader in F1 history. I said it in our hot takes in our preseason episode. I said Kimi is going to fight for the championship for a small portion of the season. If he does fight for the whole season, I'm here for it. But he's going to fight for a small portion of the season at the very least. We're going to get into round 5, essentially. No, 6, essentially. It's only going to be round 4, but round 6, essentially, because of the 2 canceled. And Kimi's the leader. The leader in the championship. Nice. And if he had some help from the safety car. When he was sitting on pole, he had a terrible start. I think he lost 5 places. He went from P1 to P6 very fast. The McLarens had great starts. The Ferraris had great starts.
Both the Mercedes had a terrible start.
Yeah, they both had terrible starts because Kimi went from P1 to P6. George went from P2 to, what was it, like P4?
Yeah.
Something like that. They both dropped. They both went backwards. Not great. They definitely need to work on their starts. But at the end of the day, it almost looked like George was going to have a chance to win. But Oscar snatched the lead and didn't want to give it up. And he didn't give it up until he finally pit and then got hit by the safety car.
Yeah.
Same thing with George. They pit George 1 lap later. Ollie Bierman has his shunt, his hard 50G shunt into the wall.
Yeah.
Safety car comes out, and those that stayed out for that 1 extra lap reaped the benefit. We saw that happen 2 years ago. That was how Lando got his first career win. Benefit of the safety car. We've seen multiple wins across. That's the one that kind of sticks out to me in my head, is because it was probably one of the bigger ones. Safety car helps sometimes, and you catch that luck, and that's just part of the sport. It is what it is. I know George wasn't happy Nobody usually is, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's part of the sport. It's part of taking the gamble of when you want to pit and when you don't, how long you stay out. If there is no safety car and they stay out, George probably takes the lead in that race because he went for the undercut on Oscar, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think it was.
Yeah, that's who it was
And
covering up.
that's why he pit. So, hey, it was the right call at the time, but hindsight, what do they say? Hindsight's 50-50.
Yeah.
Ironically, he was covering off the undercut by his own teammate, Oscar.
Yeah.
So, funny how those things work out.
Yeah. And so, end of the day, Kimi wins. George is upset. I don't think he expected to catch hands from Kimi this early in the season. I'm honestly kind of based on his comments in some of the media sessions where he's like, it's not fair that they're coming after us just because we're at the top now. Buddy, how long have you been in this sport? Because me as a fan, I know that, hey, they're going to come for you if you're at the top.
Yeah.
We've seen Christian Horner and Toto Wolff argue how many times? If you got a problem, change your car. When you're not at the top, you look for every way to bring your rivals back down. That's what they're doing. That's what Ferrari's doing. That's what McLaren's doing. That's what Red Bull's trying to do if they got a chance. I think Red Bull's more focused on their own problems right now than anything else. But nevertheless, I think some of his attitude, like his demeanor, maybe not attitude is the right word, but demeanor and comments, stuff like that, even after this race where he couldn't get past Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari, kind of seems like he almost thought it was going to be a lot easier. And now he's got to kind of take this break and be like, all right, I got to lock the fuck in.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely, that's one of the things I had going into this. Like, George and Kimi have had a great relationship since they started, the big brother, little brother relationship.
Yep.
I feel like nobody was really talking about, like, how is that relationship going to unfold if these two do get into a championship battle?
Mm-hmm.
What's that mentality that either Kimi or George can have? Like, who's gonna take that first step? Who's gonna backstab who?
Yeah,
like, I'm here to win the championship.
Yeah,
we talked about it last year with the McLarens. Obviously, they had the whole papaya rules and everything, but this is Mercedes, and we have seen Mercedes teammates going at it before, who were best friends. And at the end of the year, they still don't talk about. They still don't talk to each other to this day. So,
hey man,
I'm to see how that pans out.
Yeah, if there's anything we learned last year, like you said, it's easy when the rival's on another team. It's easy when it's Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton. It's easy when it's Max Verstappen versus Lando Norris. When it's Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri or George Russell versus Kimi Antonelli. I mean, you can even go back as far as like Ayrton Senna and back in those days. The rivalries are easier when they're on a separate team because you have nothing to worry about. When they're on your team, that's when things get tricky. That's when the dynamic changes. That's when press conferences get a little feisty. Yeah. Or there's just papaya rules thrown out the window every chance you get, and that's the only answer you get from the team.
Like I said, George has been the type of guy where he throws shade during interviews, during press conferences.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people do it because it's just something everybody does.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
No, for sure, it's part of the sport.
To do it. Yeah. And I can't wait if this does pan out like I think it can.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna get pretty interesting. I want to see if Kimi can keep it up when we get down into the back half of the season, where they're tired, the bodies are starting to take their toll, things are getting kind of gritty. As a second-year driver, can he uphold it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can George keep up? I mean, George has never been in a situation where he's really fought for a championship. These are two guys that are new to a fight, and they're getting chased down by the rest of the pack, along with fighting their own teammates. So it's interesting to see that we're already getting a little hint of it in round 3 of 22.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing like a little bit of lack of a better term, a little glimpse back to the past. because there's 3 drivers right now who back in the day when they were younger, they came on the scene in Lando, Max, and now you have George. Where when they came on the scene, they were like, okay, these are supposed to be the next Wonder Kids. They've got a lot of hunger. Let's see how they do against their veteran teammates. And by year 2 or 3, and in Max's case, year 1, like they all started showing up and saying, "Oh shoot, I'm here. I'm hungry now. I want to take what you got." And now we're like 6 or 7 years down the road.
We
all
got
3
a new
of those
batch.
drivers now.
Now you got Kimi, you got Isaac, you got Behrman.
Yep. You got all of them going through what exactly what their younger selves had to put the other one through, which is funny. And ironically, the second year in a row since Lando had to do that with Oscar last year. So I think it's different, man. They're not ready for this.
I mean, anything we've seen is that in this sport, history repeats itself. I mean, there was one thing we looked at last year was like the eerily similar comparison between Vettel's career and Max's career, where they won the 4 championships. And then they would never won again, possibly. I mean, Max didn't go to another team, but, and then I even saw something today where it was like an edit where they was like comparing Nico and Lewis to like George and Kimi and the trajectory of how like their careers have gone. And again, eerily similar. History repeats itself in the sport more than we probably realize.
Yep.
So it's worth noting. It's worth noting. I guess the I wouldn't say the second biggest headline. The second biggest headline to come out of this weekend was, outside of Max and his stuff, which we'll get into, was Ollie's shunt.
Yeah.
It was, they said they measured the impact at 50 Gs, which was pretty significant. It was pretty hard hit. We saw the onboard. We saw the I don't know if y'all saw the angle from the fans.
Yeah.
We saw the broadcast, footage. Obviously, it was a hard shunt, and it's the talk of the town now because just before the race, Alonso alluded to something like that happening. After the race, Carlos Sainz said, "This is exactly what we feared was going to happen." Max, Charles was very vocal about how much the regs suck in qualifying. He called it a fucking joke. But he mentioned, I want to say after the race, he mentioned something. Max obviously has been very vocal about these regs. He mentioned Ollie's shunt. But the 2 big ones I know for sure that I saw was pre-race, Alonso almost predicted it. It was weird. And then after the race, Carlos Sainz was very, very vocal about, this is exactly what the fuck we talked about. This is exactly what we warned FOM and FIA was going to happen. And now they see it. These recharge areas, the what is it? The closing speed, the difference in the speed it's dangerous. I mean, for lack of better terms, it's dangerous. If Franco tries to pull a move, some people say he tried to cut off Ollie and that was part of it. I think regardless, there was going to be a shunt. Whether Franco moved or not, you can't really put that on him. The closing speeds are different. You're coming around a corner. Ollie did all he could to try to avoid it and keep it in. Once he hit the grass, that was it. The car was gone. He just had to hold on for dear life. It makes it look 10 times worse when he gets out of the car and he's limping, can barely walk.
Yeah, that did.
Luckily, he was okay. He'll have 5 weeks to recover. They said it was a contusion on his knee. Contusion, just a fancy word for a bruised knee. Those hurt. Those hurt from experience. I can only imagine at that level what it felt like. I've had a contusion on my knee from other things. I've never got it from crashing a rocket ship on wheels.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely on the radar. It was so big, FIA had to release a statement saying, we're reviewing the crash, we're reviewing what happened, and it is going to be brought up in meetings that we are hosting or having during this 5-week break. We talked about it. These new regs are terrible. I went on my rant a couple weeks ago and talked about the surface layer opinion of it and kind of went in on how it looked in a race. Now, from a safety aspect, it's a whole different thing, and we've actually seen it now. A lot more fans hate it. A lot more drivers hate it. It seems like anybody who defended it has kind of lost that edge. Yes, we're still getting passes. There was that really good move that Charles had on Lewis, I think it was, middle of the race, but at what cost, I guess is to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that incident was just we watched it live, like,
Yeah.
that onboard is scary, man. It's scary to watch.
I think it was scarier to watch Franco's onboard.
Yes.
For
Even
being
that
honest.
POV, like we said, like, each POV was scary. It was scary
Yeah.
to watch. But, Ollie was coming in at such high speed, and then Franco had such low speed going into that quarter. It's like you said, the drivers have talked about
Yeah.
it. It's just a mixture of, like, nothing good is gonna come out of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these regs are something needs to change. I don't think anything's gonna change soon.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is they've said that there's not gonna be any major changes this season.
Yeah.
I would expect there's probably some small stuff that comes out of this going into Miami. There's gonna be some small changes that come out of this incident and everything that's kind of led up to it these past 3 rounds. I just don't know to what extent.
Yeah, because like the same thing what Charles said, especially during qualifying, it's bad.
Yeah.
Everything he said was 100% correct, in my opinion. Qualifying is supposed to be pushing it to the max, trying to get the best lap times in. Even though they made the changes for this qualifying, it didn't help.
Yeah.
You have guys who are like doing their absolute best, but the times
they're being punished for it. They're being punished for pushing at the wrong times. It's very odd.
So yeah, and then you have everything going on with Kimi's onboard, them censoring fans once again, which is not the right move.
Yeah, they had a technical issue on Kimi's pole lap that just so happened to cut out right before 130R.
Yeah, the very famous corner. And if they did that without thinking the fans weren't going to notice at that specific corner, it's just stupid. It's stupid, and you're already not doing a good job.
Yeah,
regs.
Their PR has not been the greatest this season, to say the least.
Not at all.
I want to hear your thoughts because I know coming into the season and after the first round, even the second round, you were a big defender of the regs because they did add some excitement. You finally got rid of the dirty air, which I know is like the biggest thing. But after seeing like the struggles in qualifying in Japan, where we've seen laps like Max's last year, or even others who've gotten really good just qualifying laps out of there, and even the racing, like the safety portion of it when it comes to all these. Like, where are you at with it now? Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Pretty much a lot of the fans, but I would put it with a little caveat for me. Mm-hmm. I do feel like we're have a big old pot of jambalaya of everything happening at once. You do have the most popular driver who has been outspoken for a while already, kind of putting this idea out there, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying what he said was wrong, but already putting it in people's heads. Mm-hmm. I do want to start off by saying, obviously we're happy Ollie's okay. The key changes to me, the biggest thing that needs to be changed. Obviously, for me, it's just like this. The arrow can stay the same. The engine, throw that out and restart. Just throw that out and restart.
Yeah, they got, and that's the biggest thing. Is I mentioned that when I talked about the regs in my rant a couple weeks ago. Is the aero portion is great. We don't have the dirty air. They're able to kind of follow, try to make moves. But I think multiple, if not all of the drivers have said that they can make a move, but it's not going to matter because as soon as they get to the next straight, if their battery dies, we saw the onboard this week of Max. Just his battery died and he knew Pierre was going right past him again. There's nothing he could do. And that's kind of where they're at, and that's kind of where the frustration lies with a lot of the drivers now is they feel like they can't make a move because they're going to get punished for it as soon as they get to the next straight or as soon as they get to the next, they get through the passing section, they make a move, and it's for nothing.
Yeah. And for me also, it's like this. It's like okay. I was gonna say my bad for
you're good. New system. We're still working it out.
All right, we're still working this mess out, guys. But for me, the other stuff was if you have something that's bad and you want to make criticism of it, you can't be like FOM and like F1 media right now. That's just going to add more coals to the fire.
Yeah.
Like, and then on top of that, you've got like, I would say the drivers haven't really helped it. Besides Max, who's been like kind of like the only one that's kind of at the same stance. I mean, obviously, I'm a Lewis fan, but like Lewis was just the first week he said something was bad. But at the same time, like I said, you can't have like you can't. The only thing that annoys me is when they say like the whole regs are bad. Like I said, the arrow's keepable, and the active arrow stuff I feel like actually kind of is the main thing that's been doing the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to fix, but like also, I think they went too far deep with the 50-50. It's too early for the 50-50. They said they want to do this by 2030, and now all of a sudden they're trying to do it by 2026.
Year one, here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they skipped it by 4 years. It's like exactly what got Honda back in the day in trouble with McLaren in the first place. They're like, hey, we're going to bring you in early. So it just feels like a lot of stuff repeating, like we talked about with history earlier.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like we just mentioned, and like you said, it's on social media and across media everywhere. Like F1 is not doing themselves any favors by censoring people and trying. They're almost like trying to play like F1 is one of the biggest sports, like one of the only sports I see where people dive into data. Like, yeah, like you go into baseball and they have all the analytics and the stats. Yes, in football they have the different plays and the routes, and but when you get into F1, people are looking at spreadsheets of data, not just the drivers, not just the teams. Fans are pulling up this data and looking at where the throttle, like they're learning how to read this stuff. And when F1 is, especially with all the angles that we get from F1 TV, the onboards, the radios, we hear and see everything if we want. For them to be saying, oh, well, we had technical issues. Somebody was like, no, they're not. I could pull up his onboard right now and it plays.
Then they ban that.
They don't do that. And then you got the whole thing where, like you said, some of the drivers have been really wishy-washy. That's why I was doing like snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yep.
Yeah. When we started the season, Lewis was very against it. He was like one of the only ones with Max and Alonso saying, hey, these regs aren't going to cut it. And then a week ago or 2 weeks ago, he's like, man, this is some of the best racing I've ever had in my life. And then this week, it's all silence because he finished, P6?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and that was something I brought up last week, too, is I want to hear his thoughts when the McLarens show up and the McLarens are here and pushing the Ferraris even further back. Are the Ferraris even going to be P2 at the end of the season? Because it's worth noting, too, which we didn't really say, Charles got a podium. He beat Lewis for that podium. And Oscar finally started a fucking race, his first one in 3 rounds, and he puts it P2.
Yeah.
When Lando gets his issues figured out, because he has been having issues literally every week, unfortunately for him, where is that car going to be? You know what I mean? How unhappy do Charles and Lewis really get if Ferrari can't figure it out and take it to the next step?
This is literally something I brought up at the beginning of the season when we were doing our rankings for the constructors.
Mm-hmm.
I said McLaren should do well this year. I put Ferrari in P2. I think Mercedes was going to take it all. I put Ferrari in P2, but I was like, McLaren's going to be right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I put Ferrari P2 because that's where we are always. Last year wasn't greatest, but McLaren's going to be right there. Mm-hmm. So, they had a bad start, but I'm still not counting out McLaren. Last week in China, Lewis said all that because you look back at that race; those two were going at it, and they have so much respect,
and it looked fun,
Like, so you can imagine the fun they had. They're like, "Oh my God, we're finally having racing where we're side by side, we're making passes."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and now it's like, okay, like we see the downside.
yeah. And this last week they had the upside. This week there was the downside, or I guess 2 weeks ago. In China, they had the upside. This week, not so much. Yes, Charles was able to get it on podium. They had a little help from the safety car. But, I mean, you shout out Charles, too. He was able to keep George in that rocket ship behind him.
Yeah, he made that great pass.
Whatever. And, I said it a couple times on the live, so I got to mention it. There was all that talk about Mercedes' front wing. And now, all of a sudden, yes, the Mercedes were still getting by pretty quick. But you get to those last 7, 8 laps, George could not get past Charles to save his life.
Yeah.
Was there something with those front wings? If you ask me, I say maybe, but I might be a little bit biased.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, back with the regs, I think there's definitely a different universe out there where they got this right, where they balanced it correctly.
Yeah.
Where, you could still have, the energy, the depletion system, because at the end of the day, that does help with racing, keeping it close. But they just did not hit the mark at all.
There's definitely a happy medium there. They just are
absolutely
not. They're not there yet, and they have to find it, and they have to be willing to do it. I just don't know if that's this year or not.
Yeah.
I don't think they get to. Well, I shouldn't say I don't think, because we have a lot of downtime this season, because we're at our first of our.
Yes.
We are our first of what is the combined 10 or 12 week break we're gonna have between the 2 breaks we're having this year.
So yeah,
we have a lot of time to fix this mess.
We have 5 weeks until Miami, and then Miami is from May 1st through May 3rd. There's that weekend. Then there's another 2 weeks off, and then we're in Canada. So in the next 8 weeks, the next 2 months, we have 2 Grand Prix weekends. And I think Canada's a sprint. So you get a little bit of a bonus in that weekend. But 2 race weekends in 8 weeks is not great.
Yeah, at all.
Not great at all.
They're going to have some time to do this, but I think I think the biggest thing they'll change first is I think they're going to go back. Honestly, if you want to go all the way back, I say you go back to 70-30 split. See how that works, because right now 50-50 ain't working it. And then I don't know if there's any way they can do this, because trust me, I ain't know how the heck they got a computer telling these drivers how much power and how much not power they're supposed to have. But maybe put a little bit more power back in the control of drivers, like overtake mode.
Yeah.
And instead of using it like curves mode, like it used to be back in the day.
I just think, unfortunately, we're not going to get any of that in 2026. That'll all be 2027 and further. I feel there's going to have to be some small changes made. I just don't know what all it's going to entail. And then obviously, with all these regs, we've said his name a few times. Max is at the top of the headlines. He to start the weekend kicked out the journalist from the media session, says he wanted to answer any questions until he left, which is the same guy that essentially taunted him in Saudi Arabia. I gave y'all my opinion. I think it could have been handled differently by Max, playing devil's advocate. I think he definitely could have handled it differently. Maybe just ignored him, gone about it. But at the same time, Max Verstappen is Max fucking Verstappen, and he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. You already don't like the media. So he's going to say what he's going to say, and he's going to do what he wants to do. I think it's funny, though, because, it was kind of a bad look, but at the same time, it's nobody was shocked. I think the only people that were shocked was the media or the journalist himself. Even other journalists were probably like, well, you fucking poked the bear, and guess what? You lost a finger.
But to be fair, man, that was last year, bro.
Yeah.
That was last year, and the question was kind of wasn't dumb.
And I think he said it too, because somebody asked him afterwards a little bit of clarification on what happened. He said it wasn't so much the question that irritated him. Obviously, he got tired of answering that question. Of course, it was going to get brought up at the end of the year, but he answered it multiple times. He was tired of answering it, but it was, and we didn't see this angle. Who knows? But he even said it. He goes, "Now you're looking at me with a dumb smile on your face." It almost seems like the guy kind of taunted him. He kind of laughed because he knew he was going to get a rise out of Max. Certain athletes, what you're going to get out of when it comes to media in every sport. I mean, look back to NFL, Marshawn Lynch's days. He was just here so he wouldn't get fined. These journalists, they ask these guys questions so much. They know how to push their buttons. And I feel like I said, you poke the bear, or the lion in this case, you lost a fucking finger. Sometimes the lion gets his lick back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, obviously, like I said just a few minutes ago, it could have been handled differently. I don't exactly condone it, but I understand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, if what he said is true, if what Max said is true, and he did give him that look, then I can understand. But the question, it's a normal question where it's like,
yeah,
because it was a
fair
big part
question.
of that season when you look at the end.
Yeah,
You
when you
know,
lose by 2
get
points
there,
and you definitely cost yourself probably 6 that one weekend.
then
People are
all
gonna
this time
ask,
goes
yeah.
by. This journalist is just for whatever media was, whatever
Yeah, I can't remember
heard
who it was.
the British could that's always going around, especially with Max fans. And then imagine just sitting there, you're ready to take your questions, and all of a sudden Max Verstappen attacks and sits down and goes, hits the chaperone on you and just out. Like, bro, that was like 6 months ago. You're still mad about that?
Hey, man, some people hold grudges, and it is what it is,
But yeah, it's like
to
you said,
me,
could have been handled better.
It's like I'll say two things. It's like a two-way street. First off, like
Mhm.
you got to give respect, and respect is expected back. Now, it's kind of weird with Max's relationship with the media because argument could be made he does not respect them at all. Like some of his responses, like
I mean,
especially if I had two balls,
it could be, yeah, it could be made that, but it's also, if you think back to, was it 2024 when he was getting fined by F1? He didn't answer any questions in the media room, but he still took them all outside and answered questions outside of it. So there is a level of respect there by him, but he's also, it's very obvious how he feels about media. So it's like you said, it's easy to see where you can see he definitely disrespects them to a point too.
And like Mark said, we don't have the camera angle to know what his facial reaction was, but like also agreeing with Mark, you got to handle it in a different way. And it's been 6 months since that question. And now, trust me, I've seen from every Red Bull fan page there is all the other incidences that cost Mac the championship last year too. So I know it wasn't just that.
Yeah,
but
it's a big talking point. Obviously, as this podcast is Max fan, I understand the question had to be asked. I think there was a level of disrespect or a level of taunting probably behind it, and Max does not shock me that he can be one to hold a grudge. You really don't, especially when it comes to media. That we've seen just kind of how blunt he is and his feelings towards certain things. If you're a journalist and you're still surprised by this, especially as one who was quote unquote taunting him or laughing in his fucking face, bro, you got to expect something. You know what I mean? Like, you're not just gonna keep getting away with it. But
and I hate to bring up this guy's name in this conversation, but it's just an example I saw that I couldn't think I thought fit perfectly with this was, if Lewis can answer the safety car questions after Abu Dhabi 2021, there really isn't a question a driver shouldn't feel comfortable with unless you had physically bodily injury in it.
Yeah.
And it's just a question where, like, if you hold on that for 6 months, I can understand that you're still thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I heard rumors that the guy showed up at another press conference, didn't ask any questions. It was cool that time. I don't know what happened this time, if he was sitting closer to Max so he noticed him. But it's just something where it's not a good look, but it doesn't matter to Max. But I don't think that should be the biggest talking point. It should be like, I don't think it's cool that a driver can kick someone out that they don't want to talk to. Because
and to be fair, I think
we could do that too.
Red Bull came out and said, "Hey, we don't condone it. We're going to talk to Max." The F1 said that they were going to have conversations with Max and the team. So it's obvious that nobody condones it, right? And it's something
apparently
that
they're getting in a room together too. That's an interesting thing I read too. They're getting in a room together, both of them, to hash everything out.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, sometimes man to man, you got to sit face to face with somebody and hash things out. And next press day, whenever Max is up there, and he sees him, he'll answer his questions. But like you said, you got to get respect to give respect. It goes both ways. Max's antics towards the media probably are what led to him, that guy probably doing what he did, but it also can't be surprised when, if you piss him off, guess what's going to happen, Past that, to start the weekend, it's obvious he still does not like the regs, and the word retirement keeps getting thrown out there. He's very unhappy. He's got the exit clause that is in his contract that we talked about last year. Apparently this year it's even stricter, that it's even easier for him to leave, and he doesn't even have to tell the team he's leaving until October. I don't see him retiring before his contract's up. I think he gives these regs 2 years if they promise that there will be changes. If F1 is actively working towards making this better for the drivers, I think Max will stay. But it's also obvious he is getting his ducks in line. He's getting his ducks in a row, whatever that saying is, to be ready to depart. They just renamed Team Redline, which was his sim racing team, to Verstappen Sim Racing. He's got the GT3 in full swing. I think he's going to go do, I don't know if he's doing NLS3, but he's going to be doing qualifying because here at the end of April for the 24-hour of the Nürburgring. So, I mean, then he'll be racing the 24 hours. So it's obvious he has his avenues outside of F1, and he's getting ready to possibly exit if he wants. He's not going to be doing nothing. It's not like he's going to go just chill on his yacht next to Toto Wolff's yacht, you know?
Yeah.
He's got plans, and he's making moves, and I think that's what we're seeing. That is like, okay, he's for real. He's probably not sticking around much longer.
Yeah, this has been talks for so long.
Yeah.
And they've always seemed like they have truth in it. I definitely do think now with these regs, they are definitely very much closer to like it being actually true. But, I mean, it's just with these regulations, I completely understand why he would want to leave. And, if they don't start making like at least small changes throughout the year, if there's no sign of progress of like trying to get these regs better, like I'd put money on it right now that he'll leave. Like, bro, as soon as like next year.
Yeah,
because he has everything set up for after Formula One. He's already said it before. He's got his championships. He doesn't need to do anything else in Formula One.
Yeah, he really doesn't care to break the record. He's good enough to break it, but he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, especially if the car is not going to be good enough to even win races. So just do your thing, man. You've already cemented your legacy in Formula One. If he wants to leave, then leave because I will understand it if you don't like the regs.
Yeah,
you have everything set up for GT3, like you said, Nürburgring, whatever you want to do, man. You want to go race Le Mans? You want to bring Fernando Alonso with you because I'm sure he's not enjoying driving Aston Martin. Hey, maybe Lewis, when he retires, you form that group.
The Avengers are gonna go race Le Mans.
Do it. Yeah, man. You cemented your legacy. Whenever he wants to leave, he can leave, man.
Yeah,
like, that's he's already a legend in the sport. So
I don't think Max is going to leave prior to the end of next season because, contrary to when anything he says, I just don't think it'd be a good end to his F1 story if he leaves because of regulations. Without at least giving it like a good try to work it through it and like see if Red Bull can turn around. Because he's not, we're not the only ones that notice this Vettel-esque track that he's on. And I know he wants to create his own story anyway. Now, it also seems like Toto kind of got like his perfect recipe. He's like, I can't have him in Formula One, but I'll just have him in my GT3 cars and I'll still make money off of him. So it don't matter to me.
Exactly.
So Toto kind of ends up being the winner out of all this. And then like
somehow.
For me, to me, he always wins at the end somehow, dude. Always. Yeah. Like, and for me, like Max, you're reaching Giannis levels right now for me, man. We're getting critical Giannis levels of either you just leave or you stay, brother, because I'm going through the same thing in the NBA with Giannis right now, where it's been 3 straight years of, I want to be a Buck for life. Actually, no, I may want to be retraded.
I want to go to a contender.
And I think, too, like, people have thrown out, well, maybe he just goes to Mercedes, because I think everyone can agree that if he picks up the phone and says, hey, Toto, can you get me a seat? George is gone. It's very sorry, George. Whether you win a championship or not, I'll pack your bags right now. Toto can say all he wants. I think we all know that if that phone call happened, he'd be like, "Sorry, George. Yeah, I'm going to pack your bags." Sorry, George. But no, it's
you never know. He can play hardball with him and say, "Hey, man, look, you didn't want me last year. Hey,
that's true. No, I think it's worth noting too is one of the. Yeah, one of the big talking points that I've seen is how does it affect F1? Max is arguably up there on Mount Rushmore for your best drivers in F1 history. When a driver like that leaves the sport, especially knowing that Lewis Hamilton doesn't have that many years left either. Fernando Alonso doesn't have that many years left either. Yes, we have a great new fresh batch of rookies, but to lose 3 championship drivers, especially 2 that are on Mount Rushmore of the sport, and there will be people that argue, no, he's only won 4 championships. He's not on. He was whatever. I think
Senna won 4 champions.
75%, if not more, of the F1 fan base will put Max Verstappen on Mount
3.
Rushmore.
Hold on, I'm getting mixed up. yeah, I'm thinking of Vettel too. Like I don't know.
Yeah, so you look at what he does and what he's capable of. We've seen what he does in slower cars, even last year when he didn't win the championship. Max is up there. Biased opinion or not, I say it. That's besides the point. You lose a caliber of a driver like that. I mean, you see what he brought to GT3 just that one weekend where their numbers skyrocket. I think F1 is not blind to the fact that if he leaves, there's gonna be a shuffle in the fan base of the sport as a whole. As a sport of a whole, in the sport, you know what I mean.
As a whole,
as a whole. There you go. There's gonna be a shockwave that gets felt, and I think it's obvious because there are talks that Max has there's supposed to be a dinner between him and the president, Domicelli, to kind of discuss and kind of hear what Max is, and a lot of people like to criticize Max because he's been the most vocal, and I've seen this argument only once in the last 2 months, but it's a very good point. If not the best driver on the track right now can't be critical of changes being made to the sport, who else can be? You know what I mean? If they're going to listen to anybody, it should be drivers like him, like Alonso, like Lewis. Max being the loudest, you probably want to have a sit down and be like, all right, what could you see being done? And I think you sit down with Max, he's going to give you good feedback. You know what I mean? Off camera, one-on-one, you have those conversations. That's like saying, oh, sorry, Justin Verlander, I don't give a fuck what you say about the ABS. You'd be a fool to think that maybe him and a couple other people weren't in a room and be like, hey, we're going to bring this. Pitch clock. Hey, we're going to bring this to the sport. What do you think about it? I mean, we saw it when pitch clock got implemented in baseball. Some of those good pitchers were very vocal about it. There were small changes made. So, just as a comparison in sports, but
yeah.
Max aside, I mean, we'll see what happens. Only time's going to tell. We'll see by the end of the year if he stays with Red Bull, if he stays in the sport as a whole. His name's in the headlines right now. Outside of that, I had some other good talking points. Did y'all have anything to add on Max's thing? Ivan, you look like you had.
The only thing I don't want to blame you because you are actually an honest and cool Red Bull fan, but your fan base doesn't help with sometimes I feel like some of the fan base looks at this from a F1 MV, and when it's F1, like it's Formula Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Because I do think losing a driver of Max caliber, yes, you will lose viewers, but this is also, think of it like through Fernando Alonso's eyes. I'll use this as an example. The hell that man has been through with not only regulations, but like literal cars trying to kill him. This is the second time in his career he's had a car try to kill him. And he got electrocuted one time by a car and got sent to the hospital and doesn't remember that. So that's saying something for a man. Like, I just think of it like that, where I do think they're going to have to, it's good that they're talking to drivers because, trust me, during Bernie Ecclestone time, oh, brother, they would have, I actually kind of want to see that. I want to see Max in a Bernie Ecclestone run F1 instead of Liberty. Because he thinks it's bad right now with the stuff Bernie would have been trying to do, dude. He would have been he would have been taking air out of Max's tires before pre-race before the race started every week. Like that's the only thing I would say is like I do like that we're talking to the drivers, especially Max, because if you're gonna be the most vocal, let's hear him out. But I also think that at some point we've all like both sides, like your Formula One's going to have to say, all right, these regs don't work. But also at the same time, Max is going to have to be the person that says, all right, here's how we can make these work.
Yeah, you got to meet in the middle. It's got to be 50-50. Anyway. Yeah, it's got to be a 50-50. Obviously, they're not going to go back to V8s or V10s anytime soon. Obviously, as much as we would love to see that, it's probably not going to happen.
I see one more tweet with a V10 engine on it, dog. I swear.
But you gotta meet. You know, there's got to be that happy middle point, and we are not there yet. So
no, not at all.
Away from that though, there was a couple of notes I had that I wanted to mention. Good points to make from the race. Esteban Ocon and Liam Lawson scored points. You got to give them the flowers. They took advantage of the safety car. Everything else. And talking about him just now, Fernando Alonso finished a race in an Aston Martin.
The highest achievement. The
highest achievement of the season so far. An Aston Martin death trap machine finished a race. And shout out to Fernando Alonso. Congrats to him and his partner. A new father. Welcome to fatherhood. That was cool to see. You know, he missed media day. Kid was born. Okay, time to go race the car, and he finished the race.
Time to go race the car.
Yeah,
it's not right.
And the kid's named Fernando Alonso, so we'll never be without an Alonso on the grid for too long after he retires.
Yeah. Hey, if we just sticks around just a little bit longer, it'd be a smooth transition. You know what I mean?
No bit.
From Fernando Alonso to Fernando Alonso.
Is this how he starts his LeBron plot to get to drive with his kid?
Hey, we're gonna go from Braun to Bronny right here. It's gonna be from Fernando to Nando.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the talking point. As much as it sucks that the regs are the talking point, I mean, when you see everything that's coming out of Max and some of the other drivers, Carlos, Fernando, the Ollie incident, that's just the talk of the town. And then and it's worth mentioning, I kind of brought it up earlier when we were talking about qualifying. Pierre Gasly is a shout out. Ivan, that's your guy. We got to give him his flowers because, hey man, he's in an Alpine. The Mercedes engine is doing them well, and they're outperforming, if not battling at the very least, with Max Verstappen in a Red Bull.
He's got more.
You take it with a grain of salt, maybe because Max's car is a piece of shit, and you're running a Mercedes engine now compared to last year. But hey, when given lemons, you make lemonade, right?
He's got more points now, and this is just Gasly, not Alpine as a team, but he's got more points now than he had at Silverstone last year, which is absolutely insane to think.
Hey, man.
Even with the races taken away.
Look at Williams. Williams was fifth in the standings, and Alex Albon made 8 stops this past race. I mean,
yeah, 6.
It was terrible.
Oh yeah, that does remind me. There was a question I was going to ask y'all because I was thinking about this after the race. So McLaren have obviously figured out something with the engine, but have Alpine kind of had something figured out with the engine too?
We talked about this for the Chinese Grand Prix. Me and Mark were at 4:00 in the morning after that race ended. I told him, I said, Alpine has figured something out because they were there at the front. When Franco Colapinto was running P2, I told him, there's something that Alpine has figured out with these Mercedes engines.
Literally said, what has Alpine figured out that McLaren haven't yet?
And now McLaren seems like they figured it out. Yeah. They're back up fighting for P1 through fucking P6 now with Ferrari and Mercedes. But Alpine is not far behind. Those Mercedes engines are putting out some... Now, whatever Williams can't figure out, hey, man... As much as I need them to figure it out because I would rather see Alpine fighting Williams than fighting my team, but also I don't want my team to fall any further back. So maybe stay there.
Alex Albon he's
in literal hell right now.
He's in hell right now, dog.
So,
he is not a happy camper.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, Carlos isn't very happy. He scored 2 points in China, and that's all they've got so far with the first 3 rounds.
Yep.
Not great. I mean, it helps them that Aston Martin and Cadillac are even worse, but Cadillac's a brand new team. Nobody expected them to beat score. You know what I mean?
Only got 6 scoreless drivers so far through only 2 races. So
3 races.
And 3 races and a sprint weekend. So like, it's not bad for some of the grid, but man, it's gonna have, like you said, the regs. I hate to be the talking point, but
especially since 4 of those drivers are like seconds away from like the entire grid.
Yeah,
exactly. Like that's the thing.
I think it's safe to say that if these regs have brought anything, it's a complete shuffle of the teams like we expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of the top 4-ish.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the Japanese Grand Prix. Like I said, we have 5 weeks off until Miami. So here in about 2 weeks, we'll probably jump on for an episode to cover any kind of news that comes out of this break. There's probably going to be some regulation news. There's probably going to be Max Verstappen news, or who knows what's going to happen with the Audi and the Aston Martin shuffle. Maybe they get some team principals hired finally, and it's not Minato Binotto, if I pronounced that right, and freaking Adrian Newey running the teams. You got 2 mad scientists trying to run a team and build a car at the same time. Not great, but hey, Audi hasn't been bad. Aston Martin, on the other hand, who knows? Probably plenty of news to come out of this break. We'll try to hop on here in 2 weeks for an episode. If not, we might hop on a live to run a simulated either Bahrain or Saudi Arabia Grand Prix on our. All 3 of us have F125, so we'll probably do that at the very least. And then we will be back the week before Miami to preview Miami. We might even have Myra join us on that episode. We should be back in the studio. Other than that, any last thoughts, boys?
Nope. Ready for this break to be over already.
Yeah.
Shout out to the midfield, including Haas, especially. I know we talk a lot about all of them in a positive because of Ollie's injury, but Haas is sitting P4 in the constructors through 3 races so far, y'all. So
yeah. Hey,
gotta give him a shout out at least.
Like I said, the shuffle has definitely happened this regulation set.
Yes. Definitely.
Yep. Well, other than that, like I said, we'll be back here in a couple weeks, hopefully, and if not, at least the very least, we'll do a live, some kind of simulation stream or something like that, and then we'll be back the week before Miami to preview Miami in May. 5 weeks away. Hold on strong. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials. We are at Around the Circuit on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We are at Around the CCT on Twitter or X, whatever you call it nowadays. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know what you think in the comments about the regs, about Max retiring possibly, Ollie's incident, anything and everything we talked about, everything that we maybe have missed. Drop it in the comments. Let us know. Like I said, subscribe, follow us on our personals. I'm at Maruchan Warrior. Mark is at MPCH Town, and then Ivan is at IL White 1. You can follow us, talk to us, follow us on the podcast pages, and we'll see you all in a couple weeks. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
we're out. Peace.
Welcome back, comment.